Christ so intensely that people ask you who Jesus is. Be part of the change where Christ comes into our lives and also changes this world.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Life and Student Ministry video post. My name is Tim Schmayer. I'm hanging out with a guy named Matt Brown. He just finished up working with the Billy Graham Association here in Minneapolis, and you put on a little thing called Rock the River. You want to tell us what that was about?
Yeah, we held a youth outreach, basically an outreach to the next generation called Rock the River. It actually went up the Mississippi, so it went from Louisiana up into Minnesota here in the Twin Cities area, and basically Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, just got a heart for the next generation and a desire, felt a burden in his heart to do these outreaches that were specifically geared. It's a little bit of a new thing for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. They've done youth nights, but now they did a whole outreach just for them and just helping youth pastors do their mission that they've been working on. So
yeah, and how many kids were there approximately?
We had about 23,000 at Harriet Island Park in St. Paul, Minnesota. It was a great event, yeah.
And how many who gave their lives to Christ or whatever?
I believe it was 968 students gave their life to Christ. And we actually did a new thing this year where they also had an option for people to text in. They went through those, and we found out there was 12 unique young people that had texted in as well. So about 980 gave their lives to the Lord at that outreach.
Cool.
So.
Awesome. Well, Matt runs a blog at thinke.org. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thinke.org, and then also our blog currently is at mattandmichellebrown.com.
Okay.
So
this guy, one of his hearts and passions for youth ministry and just kind of in general is evangelism and outreach. So we want to talk with you guys, or actually he wants to talk with you because he's a little more knowledgeable than I am, about 5 different ways to help your youth group kids really share their faith. Just some tips on that. So what do you got for us, Matt?
Yeah, I heard it's cool. I heard an incredible story actually just earlier this week. A former youth pastor who's now a youth professor down at North Central University in the Minneapolis area, runs actually the Center for Youth and Leadership there, named Brian. And Brian was actually a former youth pastor from Appleton, Wisconsin, and shared a story about one of his students, and I just thought it was so fitting, just as I share a few things about helping your students share their faith. And just shared that he had a student who began to understand began to catch a heart to share Christ with his friends. So he began to pray and ask God to just help him to be able to do that. And I'm sure, Brian had been talking about it and encouraging his kids to be doing it. And so this kid started praying, and then he'd go talk to the friends that he was praying for. And began to talk with friends one by one, and he had a goal. I think Brian had cast a vision of a goal for 12 friends to pray for them and talk to them about the Lord, bring them to youth group. This kid started inviting people and didn't stop, and throughout that year he actually invited 150 kids. Not only he invited, but came with him to the youth ministry in a single year, and 60 of those friends gave their lives to the Lord. So I just thought it was amazing when youth catch a passion for this. They don't have limits in their mindset yet, and they'll just go for the Lord. So this kid was inviting people like crazy. So I started to think in my head, and I started to check on my iPhone a little bit with my calculator and figure out how many, if 150 people in a church all invited 150 people, what would that be? Because the truth is there's power in multiplication, and that's what we're doing when we're encouraging our students to catch a heart for evangelism, is we're initiating multiplication. If 150 students invited 150 of their friends, I don't even know if there'd be that many in a small town, but anyways, in a city, that'd be 22,500 people that would visit a youth group in a year. So cool. Just crazy what can happen if you enable and unleash your students just to be able to care about their friends, pray for their friends, and invite them to the Lord. So I was thinking about just 5 ways to help your students to do that. First and foremost, and this is what the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association is all about as well, is to pray. To encourage your kids, teach your kids how to pray for their friends. Get them in a habit of praying for their friends. Create tools so that they'll just get in that habit of praying for their friends who don't know the Lord, and make it, a habit where they can put it on their mirror, put it in their car, where they can remember to be praying for their friends. That's the first and foremost. And something happens when we pray. It's like in Matthew 9 and 10, Jesus begins to tell his disciples to pray for more people to share the gospel, and the disciples pray it, and then in Matthew 10 verse 1 right away, Jesus sends them out. So they answer their own prayer. So when your students start to pray for their friends, start to pray that people will get saved, start to pray that their youth group will grow, all of a sudden they start to answer their own prayer because it's the burden of their heart, it's who they are, it's who they become. So that's huge. That's the first thing. Second thing is having them write down their story. Just write down what God has done in their lives. And Peter talks about this in one of his letters to the church. The Apostle Peter, he says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you've received, to give reasons for the hope you've received when people ask you. And that was kind of in the story that Brian was sharing with us earlier this week, is that this student who started to invite 150 friends basically just started to give reasons to his friends. His friends would be like, man, church was dumb. I didn't enjoy it growing up. And the kid would say, no, not my church. My church is great. Yeah. Come with me. And that was all it took. So basically just give them reasons. Teach your students to write down their story, to know the reasons for their hope in Christ. The third thing is to do a series in your youth ministry on how to share their faith. And I know you're doing a series currently?
Yep. Yeah, we're doing a 5-week series called,
so follow the example of Tim here, and that's an incredible thing you can do. And basically in that series, I would encourage them don't just inspire them to share their faith, but give them practical tips on how they can do it. So start to give them steps that they can do. Start to teach them things like how not to use Christianese, how to use words that maybe their friends might understand a little more clearly than maybe some of the church terms we use. Teach them the number one rule in evangelism. Do you know what that is?
Pray.
Yeah, that's good.
I've been listening.
Here's the number one rule. Actually, it's don't share the word of life with the breath of death. So get them in. No, just messing. Also teach them things like how to listen to their friends. I have a story. I was actually out on the streets sharing my faith in Bible college, and just wanted to share with as many people as I could. I'm stuck there in Bible college, so you just go out to the streets. And we were in the heart of Minneapolis. So I went to the streets once with a friend named Ben. We went down the block to where a bus stop is, and I just started preaching at this guy. I didn't, ask him his name. I just started sharing my faith right away with this guy, and no exaggeration, went on for about a minute and a half, and finally turned and asked the man, would you like to accept Christ into your heart? And the man said to me, "No hablo inglés," which means I don't speak English. So one of the most important things that I learned there, but also that we can teach our students, is how to listen to their friends, find out where they're at spiritually, find out what spiritual questions they might have, and then begin to answer those and respond to those. And that's called response evangelism, really. And that's one of the greatest things we can do in sharing our faith. So I think a lot of young people want to share their faith when they come to Christ, but they just don't know how. Maybe you're a youth pastor, you want to share, you just don't know how. So finding those tips for yourself, sharing those with your students is huge. Fourth thing, I just had making an event. So not only do a series on teaching your students how to share their faith, but make a big outreach event, a big night where everyone's going to do it together. All your students are going to do it together. They're going to invite their friends, start using Facebook, start using Twitter, and just getting your students to do all that stuff. When I was working towards Rock the River this past year, we used everything that we could. Made a ton of materials.
Facebook messages from you like twice a week or something like that?
Yeah, youth pastors either hate me or I'm messing. So just go crazy with it, though. I'm making an event for your students, so everyone's doing it, make a big movement. And then the last thing I had is taking that from there and helping them make that event a lifestyle. And I've been on past outreaches where that's what they've said, and it's been a huge thing for my life as a young person when I was growing up as a student in youth ministry is, pushing that. Hey, this is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. This isn't just the one-time event. And within that, helping them understand that it's not just a one-time thing where all of a sudden it's a success story, but teaching them that it's okay to be persecuted for their faith, that it's okay if their friends make fun of them when they share their faith, and that it's not about the response of their friends, but it's about being faithful to witness. Yeah. And I'll just share one last thought with this is I was, for a period of a few months after Bible college, scared to share my faith for some reason. It was because I didn't want to offend people. I didn't want people to be hate Christians because I was, a nerd sharing my faith. And I started looking at the scriptures at the Apostle Paul and the story in 2 Corinthians, where he starts to say I was beaten, I was whipped, and I was like, when was the last time that I was beaten for sharing my faith? Yeah. And obviously, I haven't. I still you don't see any marks on me. But what I started to realize is that it's not about the response, but success in evangelism is simply sharing. So that's a thought you could use with your students. Is success is simply sharing. Cool. Share your faith. So.
Cool. Thanks for hanging out with us for another Life in Student Ministry video post. We'll see you again soon. Bye.